The president thinks that there is an extremist threat to our democracy. The president has been clear as he can be on that particular piece.
And it showed the worst drop in math and reading scores in decades.
It demonstrates that we have to move to clean, reliable energy.
KJP says that the president believes that there are extremists that are a threat to democracy. Schools testing scores across the nation plummeted. New survey out of the last 2 years of education. Bank of America is issuing race-based loans. We'll talk a lot about that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts, wait for it, right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is September 1st, the year of our Lord 2022, my sister's birthday. Happy birthday, Callie. We've got a lot to talk about. Bank of America is at the top of the headlines, I think, pretty much everywhere for a race-based home loan based on your race and ethnicity. Now, when labeling this Chiron, I kind of tried to figure out if I should say a Bank of America's racist loan, but I figured race-based is probably a little bit more fair. But regardless, it's happening. We'll explain entirely what that is. We'll go ahead and do that first. This is wild. If you haven't already, would really appreciate you clicking the little like button, the little share button, or engaging with the post in any way, shape, or form. Let us know what you think about Bank of America's new move. But this from NBC News. Bank of America's Community Affordable Loan Solution aims to make sustainable homeownership attainable for more Black and Hispanic families, offering zero down payment, zero closing cost mortgages. Where do we begin? Well, probably with what's actually happening in the article. I'd like to just read off what's going on here, and then we'll discuss the probable insanity with this type of loan that I believe is racist and not going to help anybody. Actually, will probably damage some of the communities that it's supposed to help. The option will first be available in certain neighborhoods in Charlotte, Dallas, Detroit, Los Angeles, and Miami. The new mortgage, called the Community Affordable Loan Solution, generally tends to be bad for minorities, those types of things, named those types of things, but we'll get into that in a second, aims to help individuals and families obtain an affordable loan to purchase a home, the bank said. Now, doesn't that sound nice? Homeownership strengthens our communities and can help individual families build wealth over time. AJ Barkley, head of the Neighborhood and Community Lending for Bank of America, said in a release. Here's where it gets interesting. Our Community Affordable Loan Solution will help make the dream of sustainable home ownership attainable for more Black and Hispanic families. They're saying it out loud. Wow. And it's part of our broader commitment to the communities that we serve. Okay, all right. Here's the kicker. The loan requires no mortgage insurance, which that'll be interesting. I'm pretty sure that's a federal thing. I don't entirely know that the banks can get around that legally, but I guess we'll see. Mortgage insurance, if you don't know, if you don't have 20% down on a mortgage, on a home loan, you have to pay an extra amount in case you default on your mortgage and the bank loses equity. I would imagine that they're probably going to make the case that they can eliminate that because prices are continuing to go up and probably won't go down at all, despite what a lot of people think the market's going to crash. I think home prices are probably going to go up. I'm not an expert. Don't take my word for it. But the bank is probably betting on the fact that they'll build equity in those houses when they foreclose. And I say when they foreclose because that's likely going to be the case here. Let me continue really quick before we get on some of that reasoning. No minimum credit score. Instead, eligibility will be based on factors like timely rent payments, one-time utility bills, phone and auto insurance payments. Prospective buyers must also complete a home buyer certification course provided by Bank of America and federally approved housing council, yada, 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 yada. All right, here's one of the issues. First of all, if Bank of America is going to target minorities for these loans. Now, you can say that they're predatory, which they probably will be. I would imagine the interest rate for these loans are going to be fixed at a higher rate than normal standard loans. So you want to talk about predatory lending to Black and Hispanic people? Here you go. Actually, first, let's go past that part, past the nitty-gritty part, because I honestly think this will be bad for minorities. Generally speaking, anytime the government or any sort of entity tries to help minorities specifically, it ends up being worse for them. I can point to countless examples of that happening. But before that, let's just pretend that this will be good for minority communities. Okay, what about poor Indian Americans? What about poor Southeast Asian Americans? What about poor, I don't know, any other minority group that comes into the country or, I don't know, immigrates here or has darker skin than white people? Are we just going to just pretend that they aren't poor also, or not help those poor communities? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe we're just trying to boost our ESG score in the banking world. Okay, cool. So that's out of the way. But in terms of actually helping these communities, one of the things that mortgages do, and I happen to be relatively familiar with this, I kind of deal with quite a bit of real estate. I'd call myself an amateur real estate investor. But one of the big reasons why you have to have 20% down in order to buy a house, or at least some sort of down payment. I don't know that 20% is a great number. I don't know that 10% is a great number. I don't know if 50% is a great number. But one of the reasons why you have to have that money down is to prove to the bank that you can save money for a rainy day. Because things happen in life, unexpected medical bills, losses of employment, divorce, so many things happen over the course of your 30-year loan that the bank wants to make sure that you're the type of person that has the ability to save money for a rainy day, because rainy days are not if, they are when. When something bad happens over the course of your loan, will you have the ability, or will you have already had the ability, to save the money in order to cover that gap, whatever it is, 6 months, a year in your mortgage, to not lose your home? That's the reason why you have down payments at all, so that you can prove any sort of ability to make your payments when something bad happens. Now, if you have people with zero down payments and zero credit score checks, all that you're going to do is put bad people, or not bad people, they're not bad people, put people with probably not the best financial history into a position to lose a home 15 years, 20 years down the road. When you give out mortgages to people who are, I don't want to like degrade people here. I'm just talking about a certain type of person that saves money and proves themselves to be financially responsible. If you give loans to people that are outside of that group that can't save money and are not financially responsible, what's going to happen inevitably is they're going to lose that property. If I were super cynical and take out the race component of it, just get that out of here. If I were super cynical of Bank of America, I would look at them and say, okay, so they're going to give loans to people who shouldn't be able to buy homes. Those people are going to then be able to buy properties. That property is going to increase in value, and either Bank of America will write them a new equity loan in order to cover the first mortgage that they can't pay because they weren't qualified to begin with, or Bank of America will use those families and those people to build equity in property for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years, however long it takes for those people who are not qualified in the first place to default on their loans and then take the home back and further enrich Bank of America, who has now built equity in a home that they didn't have to purchase. And they've been making loan payments on it ever since. So let's just say 15 years of mortgage payments and the equity, that's what Bank of America is going to build. I would imagine that's going to be a big moneymaker, and they're doing it on the backs of people who are unqualified for loans. That's what I think will probably happen to these sorts of things. So take the whole race thing out of it. Giving loans to unqualified people is you want to talk about predatory lending? Here it is. Sorry, I know a lot of didn't tune in for me to rant about mortgages, but this, look, a bunch of MSNBC hosts and a bunch of CNN hosts are going to be like, this is so great. Look at now black people and Hispanics can buy homes. Hooray! Without considering what happens 10 to 15 years down the road. Again, take race out of it. We're talking about qualified people. Whether or not you're qualified is whether or not you should be able to buy a home in the United States of America. And that, in a lot of ways, is not because the big, mean banks don't want to loan you money. It's that you need to prove that you can do it for yourself. It is a selfish thing, really, to be able to save money and be able to financially be dependable in order to buy a home. It's not really the qualifications that you need in order to be able to make a mortgage work is not necessarily something mean coming down from the bank. It's something that, hey, look, I've proven myself, and these standards that I'm living up to in my life and these decisions that I'm making and these financially responsible processes that I have are working. That's good. People being qualified for homes is a good thing. If you want to put in a program that helps people be more qualified from a lifestyle standpoint, I'm open to that. I'm open to hearing your suggestions, but just lowering the standards is not a good idea. I'm going to move on because I can go on this for all day, and I want to talk about other things lowering standards. National test scores plummeted, but you know what? I'm going to talk about lowering standards here. Here we go. The White House apparently lowered standards quite a bit when they hired one KJP to be the White House press secretary. And I know the Chiron, poor KJP. I know a lot of you are like, she's evil. Yeah, I don't agree with her policy-wise, but at the same time, they threw somebody in that role that was just way over her head. The job, but she said some pretty interesting things yesterday, and we have to play it because this is a big part of the national conversation. Here's KJP being asked a question and giving a weird answer. Also, if you haven't already, would love if you click the little like button, the little share button, or let us know what you think about the, in my opinion, predatory loans from Bank of America in order to, under the guise of helping minorities. Check this out from KJP. Let me know what you think.
Life expectancies are going down at a rate not seen in a century, and part of that is being driven by drug overdoses. So what is the president going to do?
And we agree. We see those same numbers as well. But the fact that we are securing the border, the fact that we are securing record levels of funding from DHS so they can stop illicit drugs from entering into the country, the fact that it's not just drug traffickers that we're dealing with as well. We're stopping financiers. This is what's happening with this under this administration. Look.
So that's I don't know if you knew that. That's actually what they're doing. They're securing the border. That's what this administration has been doing. I also so let's give her some sort of grace too. She's put in a terrible position by her boss. President Biden has done absolutely nothing to stop the flow of illegal immigration at the border. And so she's just in a bad spot. Like, how do you argue something that is that poor of a stance to begin with? But again, I don't know. There's a better way to spin it when he says that sort of thing. We are working as diligently as we can to create an equitable cause for the people coming into our border, and we hope to solidify a way to make sure that those individuals are not being prosecuted without just make up words. Just start throwing out jargon, because that's what Jen Psaki did. But instead, KJP says, no, we're securing the border. Again, she's not given a good hand to play with, but she plays it poorly every single time. Watch this. This is what's been making around. Rose says, securing the border, ? Yeah. Some of the comments are kind of funny. This is also kind of interesting. Tress says she's interviewing for a new job with CNN. Yeah, if CNN has any money left after how poorly their ratings is doing, yeah, that's her angle. I think around Christmas time, she's going to say, I want to take some time and spend with my family. And I appreciate the Biden administration for giving me this opportunity. And I will wait 6 months and go get a job at MSNBC and make bajillions of dollars, because that's what they all do. Anyways, this has been making the rounds on social media, Twitter specifically, the MAGA extremists that the president has been talking about and KJP has been echoing. Watch this. This is going to get wild.
The president thinks that there is an extremist threat to our democracy. The president has been clear as he can be on that particular piece when we talk about a democracy, when we talk about our freedoms. The way that he sees is the MAGA Republicans are the most energized part of the Republican Party. This is an extreme threat to our democracy, to our freedom, to our rights. They just don't respect the rule of law.
Okay. All right. So there's a bunch of people that I don't know. That I don't feel like I need to go super into this whole thing of just MAGA Republicans. Look, I'll say it. The extremes on both sides are wild at this point. The 10% on both sides of the political spectrum are going nuts. And if they just said that, hey, the small fringe minority of people that call themselves conservatives who are doing XYZ, yeah, that's getting a little wild. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a threat to democracy in the same way that I probably wouldn't say that, the 10% of the ultra left are a threat to democracy. I don't like what they say and I don't agree with them on anything, but I think there's such a small fringe of the population that it doesn't really matter. So I wouldn't go as far as to say any of the extremes are a threat to democracy. But the problem is, the president and KJP identifies all Republicans as MAGA Republican extremists. You can't call half the country extremists and think that they're going to be cool with that. Anybody remember the basket of deplorables comment from Hillary Clinton? Yeah, that's going to be the problem that the Biden administration is going to have to deal with. There is an address that Joe Biden is giving from, I believe, Pennsylvania again tonight. It's a national address, and most people in the news media are saying, yeah, this is just going to be a political speech. So okay, when the president speaks to a national audience of I'm giving an address, and they call it a presidential address, a lot of the news stations carry it. NBC, ABC, CBS, all of your big news channels carry that address. They don't carry political speeches. Joe Biden, we played a couple clips from his rally, 2 days ago in Pennsylvania, in which the Pennsylvania senator candidate did not show up, which is a thing in and of itself. They don't carry those sorts of things. Maybe CNN, MSNBC will, just in the same way that Fox carried Trump's rallies. But if you call it an address, generally the big networks carry it. But the big networks are saying, yeah, this is called an address, but it's probably going to be a political speech. So we're not entirely sure how much of it we're going to carry. So bottom line is tonight, Joe Biden is going to get in front of a camera and say, well, half the country is extremists. And also, we need to come together. Two very contradicting things. I'm excited to play those clips tomorrow, and maybe I will also play a clip of me today saying that tomorrow to show that, yeah, we could have all seen this coming. Anyways, she was pressed on this idea of quote-unquote MAGA extremists and doubled down. Check this out.
When it comes to voters, how does the president differentiate between the ultra MAGA folks who he sees as an extremist threat to democracy and the average GOP voter?
So, can't talk about voters from here. As you know, no.
Average individual.
Oh, no, I get you. I just need to say that, right? Just to be clear. I mean, the president has been really clear about the leadership, right? The MAGA Republicans in leadership. They're the ones who have the platform. They're the ones who, again, the extremist part of the Republican Party. They're the ones who, folks listen to in their own party.
So interesting, she didn't name anybody in particular, just says, well, no, we're just talking about the extremist part, and then doesn't go on to list anybody, just says, in the leadership. Okay, so wait, like Mitch McConnell? He's the Senate Minority Leader. Is that who you're talking about? The MAGA extremist Mitch McConnell, who I would, in case you don't know this, the super MAGA crowd does not like Mitch McConnell at all. So there's a huge polarization just within that Republican Party. But when you say, well, no, we're just talking about the extremists, but then clump in Mitch McConnell into that extremist group, now you're talking about everybody. You're literally talking about the entire scope of the conservative voting bloc as quote-unquote extremists. So the argument doesn't work there. Sorry, KJP. Not entirely working out for you on this one. I want to move to this. So just tomorrow we'll have probably clips from Joe Biden's quote-unquote address that maybe NBC, CBS, and ABC will carry, but also maybe not. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Probably going to be a political stump in which he calls all right-leaning voters. If you're right of, I don't know, Bernie Sanders, you're called a MAGA extremist by these people. And again, I would like for them to differentiate between what they're talking about. If they're just talking about the wild 5% that of people that probably would vote the same way as me, but I don't necessarily know that I'd agree with in terms of how to go about doing that. If they just said that and then also acknowledged the 5 to 10% on their side, which is actually having much more of an impact on their side, I'd be like, yeah, that's fair. And I guess if you want to try and bring people together that way, great. But that's not what they're doing. They're saying, well, no, just the extremists, like Mitch McConnell. All right. Anyways, I want to get to this. This is actually another pretty important story here. But also, okay, so this is a pretty important story, but has some pretty interesting pushback by some pretty interesting people. This is, so national test scores plummet. Also, I am aware, I was aware when we got out here to the studio that the word plummet is spelled wrong. There are 2 M's in plummet. I know that, but too late to change it. And here we are now using you know what? It's reading scores have plummeted. Therefore, spelling, including myself, has taken a nosedive. Dang, what are you going to do? Reading scores for elementary school students plummeted by their lowest levels since 1990 during the first 2 years of the pandemic. And math scores dropped for the first time in history as nationally represented testing dated back all the way to the 70s. The national test score results on Thursday lay out the extent to which the pandemic devastated learning outcomes for American students, particularly those who were the most vulnerable before the pandemic. What they're talking about is poor kids in poor neighborhoods going to poor schools. Those are the ones that shut down the most. Those urban cities, those blue state-led places got shut down the hardest. And just in the same way that we were talking about the Bank of America thing, the whole "we are helping minorities" crowd tends to hurt minorities more than the people that they accuse of hurting minorities. Okay. There are some of the largest declines we've observed in a single assessment in the cycle of a 50-year span, says the acting commissioner of the National Assessment of Education program. Students 2022 are performing at a level last seen 2 decades ago. The pandemic disrupted virtually all aspects of educational experience, and experts warn that the daunting task of students could take, the recovering task of students could take years. Now, I wanted to play this clip from CNN in which they're talking to the Secretary of Education. Kind of some interesting stuff that he says. Well, and then we'll get to this fascinating piece in USA Today, which is usually a super woke, crazy paper, but apparently is kind of coming back towards reality. Obviously still having a lefty perspective, but I don't know. Watch this from CNN and the Secretary of Education for the Biden administration, and then we'll discuss what he said, as well as some of the things that the left doesn't even want us to forget. Also, if you haven't already, would really appreciate, I'm looking at a couple thousand of you watching this thing. Click the little like button, especially if you're on Facebook. It doesn't cost you anything, but really, really does help us out. Or the little share button the little share button. That really, really does help us out. And also let us know what you think in the comment section. Yeah, there wasn't a ton from the KJP clips that weren't, oh, these guys suck. Which I agree. So let me know if you think in this national test score plummeting story. Watch this.
And it was released overnight, and it showed the worst drop in math and reading scores in decades for fourth grade students. What is that telling you? Is that a repudiation of remote learning during the pandemic?
You know, that is very alarming. It's disturbing, but it's not surprising, keeping in mind a year and a half ago, over half of our schools were not open for full-time learning. The first thing we did when we got in is ensure that our schools are open for in-person learning. We went from 47% when the president took office to 100% by November. Look, in-person learning is where we need to focus. We need to double down our efforts. I'm very concerned about those scores, and I know that we have the resources now, and we need to maintain the same level of urgency we had 2 years ago to get our students back in, to making sure that our students get support. And when we're talking about shortages in the teaching ranks, our students are going to suffer more if we don't address that right away with the same level of urgency we had to reopen our schools.
Yeah, okay, dude. So, all right, Miguel. So, yeah, we fought really, really hard, and now since Biden has taken office, 100% of the schools are now open for in-person learning. Yeah, because you guys didn't have any choice, because the quote-unquote science was well known way before any of you guys started saying, oh yeah, we should open back up. But now they're changing their tune. And what's interesting about that is in the USA Today, the generally very, very woke, very, very left opinion section, some columnist, Ingrid Jacques, was talking about, hey, don't forget that the teachers union kept students out of school for profit. They tried to take as much money from the government at the expense of kids in classrooms. USA Today columnists questioned the union's motives in a new piece entitled "Teachers Unions Want Parents to Forget What Happened During COVID. Don't Let Them." It's total gaslighting, Jacques wrote of the campaign. What kids and communities need is simple. They need reliable schools where teachers show up and do their job. Yet, that's not what has happened far into many cases in the past 2 years. Jacques wrote that teachers' unions played major roles in extended pandemic-related school closures and the negative consequences that came with them. She's saying in the USA Today that teachers and their unions, and again, I'm not talking about individual teachers. My mom's a teacher. I know several teachers that are very, very good at their job, and they show up to their every day and they do their best. I'm not talking about individual teachers. I'm talking about their teachers' unions, who unfortunately a lot of them do elect. Not a lot of them do elect. They are all elected by teachers. But the teachers' unions played a huge role in pandemic-related closures and negative consequences that came with those closures, i.e. national test scores plummeting. 2 years of inconsistent schooling, studies showed, resulted in academic slowdowns and a mental health crisis, among many other issues currently plaguing young students. Jacques noted teachers' unions often prevented a return to classrooms, writing how Randy Weingarten, the America's Federation for Teachers president, one of the biggest teachers' unions in the country, was a huge proponent of shutting schools down so that they could get more money. Jacques noted teachers' unions often prevented the return to classrooms. Weingarten instructed union members in April of 2020 to scream bloody murder if they felt schools were lacking the proper safety precautions. If schools reopened without proper safety measures, you scream bloody murder, Weingarten said at the time, and you do everything you can to use your public megaphones. The unions shut schools down for 2 years. They got as much money as they could, especially in places like California, where the teachers union is going to bankrupt the state because of how generous they are with their retirement plans that they can't afford. In order to help subsidize the badly negotiated teacher pensions and teacher pay, governments like California, or unions in California and across the country, said we need to shut schools down as long as we can and negotiate for more money. They used kids as leverage to get more money. It's just flat out evil. I don't know what else to say about it. The teachers unions, especially during the pandemic, were just flat out freaking evil. And when Randy Weingarten, the American Federation of Teachers, were at the forefront of it. And what this columnist in the USA Today is saying is don't let them forget it. When we see national test scores plummet across the country, especially in places that shut down way longer like California, when we see national test scores plummet, don't forget what the teachers unions did to the kids of this country in order to get more money. They used your kids as pawns, and now the kids are seeing the negative consequences of being used as a negotiating tool. When I started doing this show, we kind of like thought, oh yeah, this is a lighter take of things. And I still hope we kind of have some of that, and I'm trying really hard to not be so angry and worked up about stuff like this, but using kids as negotiating chips are not cool with me, and it shouldn't be cool with you. So sorry for the lack of humorous takes on these things, especially nowadays. But we're seeing the repercussions of how bad some of these policies were. And a lot of us were screaming it at the time. No, put the kids back in school, take the tape off of the playgrounds, all of those things. And we're seeing all of the negative effects from it. And I don't think we should stay silent about it. And I think we should very, very vehemently make it known that the damage done to the country was less done by the virus and more done by the government's reaction to the virus. So there's that. That's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. I'll peruse through the comments here really quick and see if there's anything worth bringing up. It took tons of money and oh, that's a great question, Gabriel, freaking correspondent. They took tons of money. Where did that go? I don't know. Like, does anybody have any idea? I know a bunch of it. Maybe I'll look into that and see where it all went. And see if I can bring that to you tomorrow after Joe Biden's address. This is a great question. The teachers unions took a ton of money and nobody really knows what happened to it. They bought sanitizer and like plexiglass things. And then Biden said, we're going to work on the air filtration. I don't think any of that actually happened. I think $1 billion, not $1 billion, billions with an S at the end of it got sent to these schools, and nobody really ended up knowing what actually happened to it. I'll dig into that, Gabriel. Good question. Thanks for pointing that out. That's gonna do it for us today. I'm gonna stop because I can go on for another 45 minutes about how ridiculous this is. But thanks for those of you tuning in each and every day. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. I would appreciate it. Just type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me. Jobob at the Jobob Show. Chiron's still wrong. Just wrong on here on Facebook. Just type in Jobob on Facebook, social media. You'll be able to find me there. Would appreciate you doing so. I am not sure what is going to happen with this show over the next 2 weeks. I'm not entirely sure if so. Okay, so we're going to be out of town. My wife and I are going to Israel as a part of a thing with Turning Point. Really excited about it. Great opportunity. Really appreciate the folks over there for making it happen. But I'm not entirely sure what that's going to look like in terms of being able to do this show every day. I'm going to bring streaming stuff, but given the possible, I don't know what the internet's going to be like there. I don't know what the day is going to look like. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with the news and do the show at the same time. So I don't know. I don't know what the show next 2 weeks. Tomorrow, we'll be here tomorrow. But starting, Tuesday, I'm going to be off in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and having a great time, but I'm not entirely sure if we're going to be able to do the show. So just keep that in mind over the next 2 weeks. We'll see. I'll probably have an update a little bit know a little bit better for tomorrow, and I don't know, let you all know. But appreciate you watching and sticking around and tuning in. Whether or not we go live every single day from there remains to be seen. But appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. Joe Biden's again giving an address a political speech disguised as an address. And we will bring clips and highlights from that to you tomorrow after it happens. We'll see you then, same time, same place. God bless America.